This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Time for school.
Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater, and I'm joined by a new friend out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Melissa Jenkins, who is the co-owner of Little Shoes Academy. And her and I met and had a call, probably a month ago or so, and I heard all about this thing that she's created, all this knowledge that she's taken in. I go, well, we got to have a lot of that knowledge to come on this podcast and have an episode specifically on it. So we're going to learn about the science of reading today, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. But before we jump into all of that, I'm going to pass it off to her to introduce herself. So Melissa, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you. I am so glad to be here. This is a passion of mine. I love sharing just tidbits of knowledge to teachers and to parents that are working with their children. Primarily early learners is where my focus is.
Okay, well, we're going to have a fun time diving into all of it. But before we do, everybody gets the same question before we start off. And it is this: if I was to visit you in Charlotte, North Carolina, what would you say, Mitchell, you need to eat this and do this to experience Charlotte, North Carolina?
Oh, that is so interesting. Charlotte is actually 8th in the nation for restaurants. So there are plenty of places that you can go. I think that we are close enough to the shore that I would promote the seafood and the low country boils. Those are excellent. Honestly, better than a restaurant would be someone's backyard. And as far as places to go, one of my favorite places that's free is the Billy Graham Library. We go there. My husband volunteers there. Christmas is the best time. The lights are beautiful, and the museum is absolutely amazing. So I would recommend that 100%.
Okay, well, thank you. And I got to ask this then too. What's the best type of barbecue? Are you a vinegar barbecue person? Or you what are we talking about?
I grew up in Arkansas, and we actually do not eat the barbecue here. Sorry. The vinegar, it shrivels my tongue. Not a fan. But because I grew up in Arkansas near Memphis, we like that tomato paste barbecue the best.
Okay. It's all good. I married into my wife is from North Carolina, so she loves vinegar barbecue. And I
don't get it.
I'm not picky, and I'll eat anything, but I don't enjoy it. I don't get vinegar on barbecue. I don't understand it. I love a good, honestly, nothing or barbecue sauce.
I'm that way too. Mm-hmm.
So, awesome. Well, glad we're friends. Glad we're good on that side there, and no competition. But as we dive in, let's hear about just a little bit of your story, how you got into doing this, and tell us a little bit about Little Shoes Academy as well.
Sure. Well, my sister and I are both teachers. We've taught in private, homeschool, public school. I've taught at the university level for, you can tell, decades. And we have a huge passion about it. And in the midst of all that, we also homeschooled our own children. And our children are starting to have children. And they asked us to look around and find out what kind of curriculum we thought would be best. And so we started looking, and there's some excellent curriculum out there, but we did not find the right one for the littlest. I'm talking preschool, kindergarten, first grade. So we wrote one. And since we've been writing it, our children came to us and said, you've got to share this with other people. So we've been sharing it to other homeschool families and conventions. And now it's actually branching into schools, micro schools, private schools, looking at it as an entire classroom curriculum. So we never saw it growing to this magnitude, but it's absolutely been just birthed a passion that I know that God put on our hearts for such a time as this.
I love it. And then when I've talked with you the first time, you can just tell, and I'm sure people can even just tell this from just your voice and you talking today, you love what you're doing. You love
Yes.
children. You're passionate about what you're doing, and I think and it shows. So I love like just your heart for education, and that you're like, you know what, I'm so just make my own. Let's make it. Let's make this better, and not be just happy with where everything is at. And if we see a need, man, let's fill it. And so I love that you've just kind of followed that calling on your life to do that. And so as you've dove into this and you've learned about reading and what all these things are, like I think specifically maybe just start with this, like what is exactly the science of reading that you and I had talked about on that first call?
Right. Well, the science of reading, the best way to sort of give you the foundation, I'm going to start with the Mississippi Miracle, and you literally can Google Mississippi Miracle and you will find this information. But back in the day, they were ranked 49th in reading. I'm from Arkansas. We literally had T-shirts that said, "Thank God for Mississippi." Otherwise, we'd be way down there. Well, we were still pretty low. But they were not doing very well. And through, I think it was 2013, they started this body of research training their teachers in what's called the science of reading. And they required all teachers to that were teaching reading to take this. It's an intensive 2-year course. Well, by the end of it, those students, that state started soaring. And by 2022, mind you, after a pandemic where everybody else tanked, they went from 49th to 22nd in the nation. And they credit most of it from this teaching. It's not really a methodology, it's a body of research that they call the science of reading. And so what they learned was reading is not natural. We all know that. I think that the ones that are really getting their hands dirty in with the children, about 5% of kids get it naturally. 95% need really extensive, intensive, systematic instruction. And so that's what this is. It gives you the research and shows the best practices. It's research from psychologists, speech language pathologists, and educators. And from all that, they've developed this system that it's not a curriculum, but it is just, you take the bits and pieces of the body of research as a whole and you put it into your teaching. And so it's been proven to be very powerful.
That's awesome. So why is the science of reading like important for education today? I mean, aren't we just good with the way we're doing things, Melissa? Why do we have to reinvent the wheel every time?
Don't you wish we could figure this out? I do. I will say for the decades, we grew up in what was called balanced literacy, and we were teaching it that the children would just kind of get it from looking at pictures and almost guessing at the words. We were teaching them to be detectives and figuring out from external pieces of the text. And really what this research has shown is that that's not effective at all. And I will say the homeschool and private school communities, just from the curriculum that I've seen, has got a good grasp on one of the foundational pieces, and that's phonics. And the public school systems are going back and realizing phonics is definitely the most effective way. So we need to get our schools back into teaching and focusing on phonics. But beyond that, there's 4 additional pieces that sometimes I think some of the curriculum doesn't have. We have phonemic awareness, and then phonics, fluency, reading comprehension, and vocabulary. And all 5 of those need to be explicitly, systematically taught. And there's so many things that we're throwing out now. We want our children to read fast and early, so we don't teach A the first week, B, C, D. We don't do it that way. We start with what are the most common letters. And so you may want to start with S, A, T, P, or M. And you take those and you immediately start putting them in place where they can start sounding out words immediately and they become readers right away. That builds their enthusiasm and their motivation. And so we're changing just the entire mindset of what we've been doing in the schools.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation podcast network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. Man, so obviously you mentioned this. The schools are potentially going back to the phonics system. So like this science of reading method, how does I kind of know this obviously, but how does it differ from the current way, or is the current way going back to this, to the science of reading piece?
I believe more and more you're going to see everybody going back to this phonics. It is what works. This has been, when I say body of research, it's been 50 years in the making. And I will tell you, I've taught for years. I'm going to give you the Melissa miracle right now. My last class that I taught was a self-contained little group of 11 boys. I had all these little boys. And if you're in a self-contained class, you have to be at least 2 years behind regular gen ed. Our district came up to us and said, we want your school to raise your reading scores 23 points on this specific test. They told my class just to be quiet. They just said, we want your kids quiet. Well, no. I had been going through this science of reading, and we had been working diligently in our class. Now, granted, because there had not been a lot of expectations, our bar was pretty low to begin with, but we grew 43 points during that time period. And they came and said, what are you doing? And I said, there's this thing, it's called the science of reading. Yes, phonics is a big part of it, but the phonemic awareness piece, I think, is left out of even some of the current curriculums today. The phonemic awareness piece is what it sounds like. Literally, it's sound, phonemic, and being aware of the sound. So when you're teaching that part, phonemic awareness, there's not a letter in sight. You're not showing the child a letter, because a traditional way of teaching is you say, okay, look, here's an F, here's a lowercase f. The letter name is F and the letter sound is F. We're giving our children a whole lot that they have to pick up at one time. So what the science of reading teaches is play with the sounds first. Let them be aware of the sounds, and you're just going through when you're doing poems or you're reading or you're just pointing things out even on the street. Oh, look, there's a fox. Oh, it starts with a F. What's the last sound? It's X. And so you're teaching them to play with the sounds so that when you introduce the letter, they already have half of it. They have the sound already figured out, and now they have something they can hang their hat on. And so they're going to be able to go, oh, I remember that F. And then they connect it to the letter. And so that's part of where the magic happens. But there's lots of little instructional strategies.
Do you recommend in that then when you're walking through town and you're saying, let's see, what's a good example here? Okay, so obviously, A, you got A, ah, so my mom did phonics with me growing up. I remember I hated it, but obviously it helped me read really young, but it was, and it worked. And so when you see something, excuse me, when you're out there and you see something and you go, oh, that is it's ants, that has an app. But did you know that it also has two other sounds too? And it's,
Exactly.
do you recommend doing that or waiting till it actually comes up?
Absolutely. I play with it as it comes natural. If you're in the grocery store and you're like, look, there's soda pop and then there's popcorn, and look, they both have pop. Op. If it comes naturally while you're going through the grocery store, and I have no idea why I picked that because I've never said pop in my life for a Coke. I'm definitely in the South. But, you just take it as it goes in. What's another word that rhymes with pop? Oh, we're in a shop. And so you sit there and you play with it, not to the point when their eyes start to glaze over, you move on. And the other thing I really, really stress is to invest that extra time that it takes, but it's so worth it, the payoff, is to teach it in a way where it is like a game or some sort of movements involved or some sort of play, because they're much more motivated to learn that way.
That makes sense. I'm a game. If you gamify something, I'm in. Like I love
Yes.
games. I'm super competitive too, so I also
Well,
want to win.
I could talk for days about just simple things like if you took the letters CAT and put them on like little Dixie cups and put them on the floor, you could have your child kick a ball and try and hit the C, the A, and the T, or run past it or stomp on it. There's so many things you can do physically that they're going to keep motivated, and that's obviously going to give you more chances to throw in more words.
So are you saying that's better than just sitting them in a desk for 8 hours every day and saying this is what the alphabet is and making them learn it, but they have to sit still and don't talk?
Could you do that? I think the adults forget because if I'm sitting in a 1 hour professional development right now, I'm going crazy. I think we forget.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Get up and move.
I was a youth pastor for a number of years and
Oh,
always obviously taught and prepared my lessons and then taught the kids and then I occasionally get to do it at the church that we're at now. And I got feedback sometimes. They're like, "Oh, you don't teach really long. Like you only teach 15 to 20 minutes when you teach." And they're like, "Really want you to do like 30 minutes." And I was like, "I mean,
wow.
I can." I said, "But you start losing kids at 20 minutes, and
Absolutely.
they're not." And then you're usually trying to get to the meaty part, like the final thing, the ask at the end, and they're gone already. You don't even have them
Absolutely.
anymore. And so I said, I do this on purpose because I feel like it works from what I've seen. The kids' attention spans are gone. Try and teach for 15, 20 minutes and move on. And so I'm the same way. I like the move. I remember my mom, she would bring us, again, being homeschooled. I remember going out to the trampoline and I would be able to jump and we would do flashcards and phonics. And so I'd be like
Yes.
jumping. I'd be like, see, and I'd be like jumping up and down and like doing, because she's like, I had to get you guys moving. You could not sit still or you would be
Absolutely.
going berserk.
Lived on a cul-de-sac, and I remember we actually have it on video, and I love it. I had twin daughters, and they would take turns, and they'd ride their bike around the cul-de-sac, and they'd go, "A, all of sin and fall short of the glory of God," and then they go around the cul-de-sac again and go, "B, believe in the Lord," and they'd go through, and but it's definitely what they needed just to get that energy out.
Yes, they're just being kids, like so.
They were.
I love that. All right, so with all this, so we got some teachers, we got some school leaders listening, maybe even some parents, and they're listening, going, "Okay, I like it. Well, what can they do today to like support their child in like reading development?" I know you're talking about like being in the store and saying, "Hey, that's a popcorn." What are there anything else that they can kind of like actionable things that are maybe simple enough to
Yes.
learn on a podcast that we can do?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I want somebody that's listening to this can actually take a piece of it and go home and use it or go straight to their classroom and use it. One of the number one things I think that has fallen away is the time that we should spend reading to the children. Just read to them for a number of reasons. Obviously, I'm all about nursery rhymes because rhymes, Jack and Jill went up the hill. Oh, Jill Hill, that rhymes. Obviously, playing what else rhymes with Jill and Hill? Do hill and hop rhyme? And there's so many different things that you can do with that. But on top of that, don't forget the classics. Go back and read some of the old stories, Aesop's fables. There's so much rich vocabulary in that literature. And so you want to be spending time. So take the time to actually read the classics and read stuff for enjoyment. Of course, I'm all about the new ones as well, since some of them are so clever. And so take the time. I think some of that's fallen away. And so I encourage you to take time to read out loud to your children. They have research has shown over and over that is much more effective than what used to be popular in the traditional that they found had very little benefit, which was silent reading, where literally they tell the teachers to read to be a good example and have the children sit and quietly read to themselves. They have found very little benefit from that. So take that time instead and use it to read to them, because reading to them is going to build that fluency. It's going to build the reading comprehension, because then you can ask questions about what you're reading. That's activating their brain, even if they're not literally looking at CAT, but they're getting so much of that background information that they need. So that's the first thing. And then I am all about the sounds because I look at this when we break up the sounds, the word establish really is a very big, intimidating word until you break it down into establish. And if you break it down, then they become more manageable. You want to teach your children. I use the word, I don't think it's a science of reading word. I think it's a Melissa word. I like to flex with the sounds. And so I love playing, okay, let's say op, hop, take away and put in sh, shop, take away sh and put in ch, chop, take away op and put in ip, chip. So you're literally playing with the front ends of the sounds, the back end of the sounds. You're moving them around so quickly. If you do this every day, then when they're taking their time to read, they're going to look, and if it does not match, they will immediately start flexing and they will start putting in different sounds, and it becomes natural. I think of it as a beautiful language that they're going to be able to develop. So just play all the time, play with the sounds. Another really important thing is when you're teaching the sounds, during the science of reading, they've shown that it's best to teach the initial sound first. So if we have the word like mat, you're going to teach the first sound first. Well, traditionally you do next, but that's not how they do it in the science of reading. They do the first sound. So you teach and practice with the first sounds of everything, bottle, that kind of thing. And then you do the final sound. So you teach the first sound, the final sound, then you go back and teach the middle sound. I can't tell you exactly why, but it works. So that's what I would do. I would spend my time every chance in lining up for lunch, playing all these kind of games where it's becoming like a second language for them.
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them, and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. So when you mentioned the one right before this, where you're saying, hey, don't read out, or they should be reading out loud, is there a point when a kid's learning to read where they either get told, or maybe it's naturally they don't want to read out loud if they're even by themselves in their room? Do you actually encourage? Should we encourage students to go, hey, actually, don't read silently, read out loud until it's your high school or college? I mean, should we actually always be reading out loud as we're developing and learning?
That is a very good question. That's a very good question. If the science of reading is done with fidelity from preschool, it should be complete by second grade. So you should not need the science of reading instructional methods after second grade if it's been done, properly. So I would encourage parents and teachers to have their children practice reading out loud up to second grade, without a doubt. Now, there are times, like I used to tell my own children, I'm like, you can go to bed at 8, or you can go to bed and read until 8:30. Well, of course, they always chose the later time. I'm not expecting them to read out loud then, because you do want sometimes where they can lay back and truly enjoy just being with the books. You don't want to neglect that also, because if they read out loud every single time, they might feel like it's a chore. So I would temper it, especially with just their stamina. I would see what's, they'll let you know.
So you had mentioned one of our first calls about systematic, like explicit instruction, like what specifically that means and why it's essential for teaching reading. Like how would you answer that question?
Yes, it's so important. And that's another thing that all this research has shown. And so if you are looking at science of reading, you want to make sure that if you're looking for a curriculum, you want to make sure it has the proper elements, because it does need to be taught in a very explicit, systematic way. We don't get it by osmosis. Very few of us do. And so it has to be explicitly taught, just like the example I gave you with the first sound, the final sound, and then go back to the middle. Most people don't know that. It's not in our nature to do it. Another very explicit thing that needs to be taught, when you're saying the sound for the letter B, don't say "buh," because if the word is like bat, if they see B-A-T, they're going to read "but-at," and then you have to unteach the So don't even put it there to begin with. You want to clip it, and you want to say "buh" when you're teaching. And all of the sounds you need to kind of clip and make them as pure as possible. And that's what I mean by explicit. This is taught in such a way that if you follow all the research, you are going to shorten your reading curve. You're shortening their reading curve. You're not unteaching things that we've accidentally taught incorrectly. And that's why it's so important that it is explicit. It's very systematic, the method, the way that you teach it.
So, and I know there's programs out there that, like, I actually don't even know what all of them are called. I just know, like, there's ones out there where, like, oh, you get your 2-year-olds, reading, and your 3-year-old reading and stuff. But I've heard, like, oh, cool, that's awesome. But I've also heard people argue on the other side saying, hey, don't force it, don't push it, because if you do, it might actually be worse, or they might not love it. How do you kind of draw the line? You got two different industries kind of pushing these. How do you kind of describe that?
I am probably, maybe I'm going to sound like a politician here, but I'm going to be right down the middle of the road on this one. I love giving I always made sure with my own children that when we read stories, they had their stuffed animals, we had hot chocolate, we sat on the couch together, made it a loving, nurturing, comfortable place to be that they wanted to come. And so, yes, I definitely think there is a time for that. But also, if you don't if you wait for them, it may never happen. And so you want to be sure that you are saying, and this is when sometimes I would say, okay, mommy's hat's off, teacher hat's on, come here, chop, chop, and we would sit down. I do try to keep it short. There are a lot of programs like the phonemic awareness piece should only take like 5 or 6 minutes a day. So you sit down with the child, or you have the group and you do it as a group. Like I did it with my 11 self-contained kids. And, I'd make it a game. I'd keep it very short, 5 to 6 minutes. And then boom, we're moving on to something else. And we're up and we're moving. And then we might sit down and now we pull out the letters. And then boom, we move up and we do something else. So it's got to be, I think, a balance, because you want them to feel the love of it and the joy of it. But you got to get the points in, and you want to make sure that you're hitting those. But you want to make sure when you're doing it. I've always said to, when I used to teach teachers at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, and I would tell them, you need to plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because the kids may get all the way through. And one of the worst things is that downtime. And so I'm one of those that you go ahead and prep, because if you don't use it, you can just put it in for the next day. So over plan. And that way they're not watching you scramble and getting ready and you lose them immediately. You want to, as soon as they sit down, you're ready to go, because you will lose them very quickly.
So, and if a kid's showing no interest in it, don't ever force it on them. Then when it comes to reading?
Well, on that point, I have an entirely different mode of thinking, and that's called bribery, because there comes a point they have to learn it. And so if they are so resistant, you need to find out what's going to motivate them. If they are dinosaur people, I am dinosauring everything. I'm making my homemade books about dinosaurs, and we're going to the library and, anything I can with dinosaurs. If it gets to the point that it's just, it's like, if we let our children, when they were toddlers, they'd run around naked all day. They wouldn't put on a stitch of clothing. And there comes a point you have to make them do something. I am for motivation. I have tons of ideas, such as having a flower, and they get to add a petal every time they do a lesson and complete it. And when they get the whole flower done, whatever's in the middle is their prize, whether it's like a trip to McDonald's or go see grandma or whatever's in the middle. So, we do things for paychecks. I think that sometimes children need that motivation, and they get to see the growth. Look how much you've done, and that gives them some sense of accomplishment also. So I'm not going to say don't push it, But you want to be careful, because if there are some children, strong-willed children, that you really have to then go deeper to try and figure out what's that secret way into getting them motivated to want to learn to read.
You are definitely a teacher, 100% through and
I'm
through.
100%.
And I love it. I just like I could see you're like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, so we're gonna have dinosaurs, we're diving into dinosaurs. And I love it. I wish more people had that outlook, and that goes for everybody too, parents too. Like obviously, like even though if they're going to private school, public school, parents are still a huge part of their upbringing, of course. And so like getting to their level and being like, oh, they're into that. Let me get into that, because that's how I'm going to be able to connect with them and relate to them on a different level. And so I love that. I'm hoping that even that part alone is encouraging for those that are listening to be like, we can try and get to their level, try and do what's interesting to them. Because I think that's how we all want to be, even as adults. If we're hanging out with a friend and they're trying to connect with us, but they're only wanting to talk about what they're interested in, we're not going to really feel like we're like loved by them or appreciated or connected with them for not wanting to show interest in us. And so same thing with a kid, and what they're wanting to learn.
Absolutely. I was thinking my classroom, we were all these boys, and I'm kind of a girl person. I had the twin girls, and I'm not really boy minded naturally. But when I got 11 of them, I was like, okay, Lord. And so my whole thing was robots. I thought, what do boys like? And it ended up being, because part of the science of reading is they're really big into syllables. And so we talked like a robot all the time. And so they got to see, and that naturally helped us break up syllables. So it's amazing. If you pay attention, go a little bit further, you are definitely going to get the bang for your buck.
Love it. And obviously they're going to need it for the rest of their life,
Yes.
Reading, of course. And I want them to have a love for it. I want my kids to have a love for reading, because man, there's so much out there to learn, and there's so much cool stuff in books. So I want them to be able to explore it and to dive into it. So yeah, I love it. Melissa, I love what you're doing. I love that you've dove into this head first and are here to help serve and help other people do this. So thank you for all your years of doing that and your continued years of doing that. Before you go, I have one more question for you. So the final piece of advice for all the school leaders listening, maybe there's some parents listening. If you had one more piece of advice, it doesn't even have to be on this part. It can be on anything. But what would one piece of advice be?
Mine is, don't put it off. You are going to be glad tomorrow for what you did today. I would say science of reading, if you're a math teacher, use this as motivation to start doing the research. Go ahead and take the little pains at the beginning to dig into it, because when you are a week down the road, a month down the road, you are going to look back and be so glad that you started. You're that much ahead of the game, because sometimes I think we look back, maybe it's my age now, I'm spending a lot more time looking back, and I'm thinking, have I done, what I wanted to do? And for me, praise God, I can say yes. And I just encourage everybody to kind of search in their heart, find their passion, and go ahead and get started today. Even if it's just the research stage, you will be so glad you did a little bit further down the road.
Love it. Love it. Well, Melissa, thank you again for obviously taking time out of your day to hop on the podcast. And thank you for all your years in education and your continued years in education. I appreciate you. I appreciate your love for what you're doing, and I can see it, and wishing you nothing but the best as you continue to do what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. And I have really enjoyed this, and encourage all these teachers. You are doing the hard work. This is not an easy job that we've chosen. And I just want you to keep your head up, be encouraged.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Melissa for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love what she's doing with Little Shoes Academy, and I'm wishing her nothing but the best as she continues to grow that and help schools and school leaders with the science of reading and helping more students, more kids learn how to read and be more confident in their reading. So if you guys need to, obviously go re-listen to it, 1.5 speed or whatever you need to, get some of those actionable steps you can take back to your school to make your school better than it is right now. And before you go, we do want to remind you guys about our 3 free resources here at School Success. And the first one is, of course, what you're listening to right now. It is the podcast. We are dropping episodes every single week on Monday mornings. So make sure you guys are subscribed and tuning in. If you would rather watch the video, not saying it's like the best thing in the world to watch the video, but you can go on YouTube and actually see our guest and myself during our interview, if you guys would rather do it on YouTube instead of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you guys are listening to right now. But we appreciate your support. If you haven't yet, we'd love a 5-star review if you're loving our content. And on our website, if you go to schoolsuccessmakers.com, in the top right-hand corner, there is a button called the School Success Report. We send that directly to you every single week, and we want to make sure you're getting that in your inbox. It is different articles our team has put together and written, and shout out for different teachers that we've come across. We just want to make sure you guys are learning and growing every single week in the education space, and getting the School Success Report is one of the ways you can do that. The last but not least thing that we offer you guys is our community. It is called School Success Makers, and it is on Facebook, completely free. We want you to join that, connect with other school leaders, teachers, and educators in there. I'm personally in there, and I'd love to see you in there as well. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys. So we'll be back here next week with another awesome guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.